In this lecture, we will discuss another very important poem of John Keats, and the name of that poem is Ode on Melancholy. Melancholy, I think you know, melancholy means sadness. And ode, you know, ode is a poem which has a universal theme. Ode is always addressed to a person or thing. For example, this ode is addressed to a melancholy. Its theme is also universal because this ode is about sadness. This ode is about sorrows and sufferings in our life. Now, first of all, we will discuss something overall about this poem, and then we will discuss this poem stanza to stanza. Now, in this poem, John Keats, he directly addresses the reader. He talks to the reader. And in this poem, John Keats, he talks about how to deal with melancholy, how to deal with sadness, how to deal with sorrow and suffering. So he presents this idea that if somebody is sad, if somebody is in sad mood, and if there are sorrows and suffering in one's life, so how should one deal with that sadness, with that sorrows and suffering? And that's why in this poem, he addresses the reader, means he addresses the human beings, he addresses people, or he advises people not to turn to intoxication or death from relief to melancholy. Now, what happens in real life that when somebody is sad or when somebody is suffering from sorrows or suffering, what does that person do? That person often take the help of intoxication, means that person starts taking drugs and alcohol, or some people they also commit suicide. Why? In order to get freedom from that sorrows and suffering and from that sadness. So John Keats, he advises people that they should not take the help of drugs. They should not commit suicide if they are suffering from sadness, sorrows, and suffering. Then what should they do? Now, in this poem, John Keats, he encourages the reader to embrace melancholy. He advises reader that they should adopt melancholy, they should accept melancholy, they should welcome melancholy in their life, they should welcome sorrows and suffering in their life. And in this poem, John Keats says that melancholy is found where? With beauty, with joy, with delight, with pleasure. He says that melancholy is also found with beauty, joy, delight, and pleasure. And that's why in this poem, John Keats, he personifies, means he gives the quality of human beings to these abstract ideas such as beauty, joy, pleasure, and delight. So overall idea of this poem is that if somebody is sad, if somebody is suffering from sorrows, and that person should not give in, that person should not start using drugs in order to forget the sadness or sorrows, or in extreme condition that person should not commit suicide in order to get freedom from those sorrows and sufferings and from sadness. Rather, the person should accept sorrows and suffering. They should make sorrows and suffering a part and parcel of their life. So now we will discuss this wonderful ode, stanza by stanza. Now, what we are going to talk about the first stanza. Actually, this poem is divided into three stanzas. And each and every line, there are 10, each and every stanza, there are 10 lines. So overall, in this poem, there are 30 lines. Now, in the first stanza, John Keats, he advises people what not to do when they are sad, when there are sorrows and suffering in their life, what they should not do. And what's the advice now we are going to talk about? No, no, go not to Lethe, neither twist wolf's bane tight-rooted for its poisonous wine, nor suffer thy pale forehead to be kissed by night's shade, ruby grape of a Proserpine. Make not your rosary of yew berries, nor let the beetle nor the death moth be your mournful psyche, nor the downy owl, a partner in your sorrows mysterious, for shade to shade will come to drowsily and drown the wakeful anguish of the soul. Now, what does he say? What does he say in these 10 lines? Now, in the first line, there's a reference to the Greek mythology. There's a reference to Lethe. Lethe, do you know? Lethe is a river in hell. It is a river in the underworld. And if somebody drinks water from that river, so that person loses his or her memory. And that's why in the first line says, no, no, go not to Lethe. Means John Key says that the people, they should not drink water from the Lethe river in order to forget their sadness, in order to forget their melancholy, in order to forget their sorrows and suffering. They should not drink water from the Lethe. What is the meaning of Lethe here? Lethe has a symbolic meaning, means the person should not drink something which makes him forget the melancholy, the sadness, sorrows, and suffering. The person should not drink anything which makes him forget sorrows, suffering, and melancholy. That's the meaning of this line. Neither twist wolf's bang tight rooted for its poisonous wine. Wolf's ban is a plant. And do you know it is a poisonous plant? And twist here means pull. So that's why he says, neither twist wolf's ban tight rooted for its poisonous wine. Now, John Keats next says that the reader, the people should not also pull wolf's ban plant from the ground and and drink it poisonous juice. No. Why? Because the juice of this plant is used. Why? To dull the pain, to numb the pain. And if that juice is taken in extreme, so the person dies. And if that person, if the juice of that plant is taken in small quantity, so it dulls the pain. So that's why he says that the people or the reader, they should not also pull or they should not also consume poisonous juice of wolf-ban plant. Why? Because by doing so, they can dull their pain, they can dull their sadness, they can forget their sadness, but only for a short time. And what is the next line? Nor suffer thy pale forehead to be kissed by nightshade. Now, nightshade is another a kind of a plant, and it is also poisonous. Nor suffer thy pale forehead. Pale means weak. Forehead to be kissed by nightshade. So again, the idea is that the reader or the people, they should also not consume. They should also not consume the poisonous juice of nightshade plant. Why? In order to forget their sorrows, their melancholy, their sadness. No, they should not do so. Nor suffer thy pale forehead to be kissed by nightshade. Ruby grape of the Proserpine. Now, who is Proserpine? Proserpine is the queen of the underworld. She is the queen of hell. And ruby grape of Proserpine, neither the reader or people should drink wine which wine which comes from the mythical queen of heaven, because that water also, that wine also makes the people forget sorrows and suffering. So in the first four lines, John Keats says that the people, they should not consume any drug. They should not consume any drug, in order to forget their sorrows and suffering, their sadness, their melancholy. No. This is not the right option. And that's why he gives example of so many poisonous plants and the rivers. Idea is that the people, if a person is sad, if a person is sorrowful, if there are sorrows and suffering in their life, so he should not take help of the various drugs in order to dull the pain or in order to forget them. Again, we read the next line. Make note your rosary of yew berries. Rosary means a garland, means a rosary bed necklace. Do you know yew berries? They are also poisonous. So similarly, in the next line, John Keats says that readers or the people, they should also not make rosary bead necklace. They should not wear they should not wear the necklace made of rosary yew berries. Why? Because this necklace will make them forget their sadness, their sorrows and suffering only for a short time by making them by taking them into intoxication. They will fall into intoxication, and for some time they will forget their sadness, melancholy, sorrows and suffering. And again, he says that the reader or the people, they should not wear rosary bed necklace made of yew berries. Now, what does he say next line? Nor let the beetle, nor dead moth be your mournful psyche. Mournful means sad. Here, psyche stand for psychology. Do you know beetle and death moth? They are the birds. They are the insects. Actually, they are the symbol of death. Now, what does John Keats he wants to say through these lines? Nor let the beetle nor the death moth be your mournful cycle. He says that the reader or the people, they should not be obsessed with death. Means they should not think about committing suicide in order to get freedom from pain, freedom from sorrows, freedom from suffering, freedom from sadness, or freedom from melancholy. And that's why he has used the symbols of death, beetle and death moth. And that's why he says that the reader should not be obsessed with insects of death, such as beetle and death moth. In other words, he wants to say that the reader or people, they should not be obsessed with committing suicide. No, they should not think about that also, because that is also not the right option to get freedom from melancholy, sadness, sorrows, and suffering. Now, what is this? Nor the downy owl, a partner in your sorrow's mysteries. Here, sorrow's mystery means mysterious sorrow. And downy owl, owl, do you know? Owl is also a symbol of death. And similarly, he says, nor the downy owl, a partner in your sorrow's mysteries. Similarly, the reader or people, they should not become partner, means they should not join the owl. They should not join the owl in order to forget their mysterious sorrows, mysterious suffering. In other words, through these three lines, no led to mysteries, because in these three lines, he talks about insects and birds. And these insects and birds, they symbolize death. So through these three lines, John Keats wants to say that the reader or people, they should not think to commit suicide in order to get freedom from their sorrows, suffering, melancholy, and sadness. This is not the right option. Now, what does he says in the last two lines? For shade to shade will come to drowsily. Drowsily means numbness, and drown the wakeful anguish of the soul. What is the meaning of wakeful anguish of the soul? It means sadness, it means melancholy, it means sorrows, it means suffering. Kata, what will happen if a reader or a person adopts any of the above mentioned methods? We have talked about so many methods to forget sorrows and suffering, melancholy. Now, John Keats says that what will happen if somebody follows any of the method mentioned above? He says, for shade to shade will come to drowsily. Kata, what will be the effect? Only that person will be able to dull the pain of melancholy, sadness, sorrows, and suffering for a short time. What will happen? That the pain will get reduced. His body will become numb and the body will not feel the pain. So only the person will be able to forget the pain, sorrows, suffering, melancholy, sadness only for a short time. है ना? And drown मैंने क्या होता है डूबना means कम होना, the wakeful anguish of the soul. So through these two lines, John Keats says that the person who adopt any of the methods mentioned in this method, so he will only be forget his sorrows, suffering, melancholy, sadness only for a short time. So this is the first stanza in which John Keats he advises people what not to do when they are afflicted with sorrow, suffering, sadness, melancholy. Now he in the second stanza he talks about what to do when a person is sad, when a person's life is full of sorrows and suffering. Now in the second stanza he talks about what to do. Now, what does he say? But when the melancholy fit means Dora, when the melancholy fit shall fall, sudden from heaven like a weeping cloud. Weeping cloud here stands for rain that fosters the droop-headed flowers all and hides the green hill in an April shroud. Now try to understand these four lines. Do you know melancholy, sadness, sorrows, and suffering? They come all of a sudden. And that's why the word sudden has been used. And sorrows and suffering, melancholy and sadness, it has been compared to a sudden rain, as rain falls suddenly from the sky. So what does he says? But when the melancholy fit shall fall, sudden from heaven like a weeping cloud. So what is the meaning of these two lines? John Keats says that when melancholy falls on a person suddenly, yeah, when a person suddenly experiences mood swings like rain, like the sudden rain from the heaven. So he has used the example of the rain from the heaven. Why? In order to indicate that melancholy, sadness, sorrows, and suffering, they come all of a sudden. So John Keats says that when a person feels sadness, melancholy, sorrows, and suffering suddenly, what should he do? Now try to understand. That fosters the droop-headed flowers all and hides the green hill in an April shroud. Here, shroud stands for fog because he is talking about the hailstorm. Hailstorm he is talking about. कहता now when the rain falls from the sky, so what does it do? It falls powerfully where on the droop-headed flowers. What is the meaning of droop-headed flowers? The flowers whose head is down means who are sad, means when a person suffers from melancholy, so his head is down, he is also down. That's why droop-headed flowers have been used. Okay, then the rain falls fiercely. It falls fiercely on the droop-headed flowers, and the rains means hailstorm. It covers the green hilly area where with fog and with you can say that hail. The complete hilly ground, the complete green hill is covered with snow. Means the beauty of the hill gets covered, the beauty of the flower gets covered when the hailstorm, when it hails heavily. So what does he say is that when melancholy falls on a person's suddenly like a hailstorm from the sky. Now what does hailstorm do? So hailstorm, it covers the flowers, it covers the greenery with snow, and that's happened with a person. What happens that when a sad mood falls on the person, so that person's mood becomes sad and that person loses the capacity to enjoy the various things of life. We are not able to enjoy the various things of life as as it hails and the hail or the snow, it covers the green area, it covers the flowers. And this happens with in our real life also, that whenever we are sad, so all the things, they look very sad to us. We lose interest in each and everything. And that's he is saying with the example of rain and with the covering of the flowers and the green hilly area with snow. Now, John Keats says, now what should we do? We should not become, we should not lose interest in each and everything. Rather, in such a mood, when we are sad, when there are sorrows and suffering in our life, we should focus on the natural objects. We should focus on the beautiful objects of life. We should focus on beautiful moments of our life. He gives a suggestion. And this is the thing. Do you know, in our real life also, when we are sad, when our mood is not up to the mark, then what do we do? That we start listening to our favorite song, and we start remembering the moments when we felt a lot of pleasure. And do you know, what do you find? That after some time, our mood becomes again good, fine. We find ourselves in a good mood. And that's John Keats is saying, that instead, that when a person becomes sad, so what does that person do? That person should focus on the beautiful aspects of nature. He should focus on the beautiful objects of nature. As he is a romantic poet, so he is talking about the beautiful objects of nature. But nowadays we have so many things in our real life, so we can focus on beautiful things, and in this way we can change our mood. So what does he say in the next three lines? Then glut thy sorrow on a morning rose, or on the rainbow of the salt sand way. Here, salt sand way means sea. Or on the wealth of globed peony. Peonies is a type of flower. Globed, why? Because its shape is globular. Its shape is round. So now in these three lines, John Keats says that when a person suffers from melancholy, when a person suffers from sadness, so he should focus on the beautiful objects of nature, such as he should look at the morning rose. He should look at the rainbow over the sea. He should look, wealth here means a lot of, he should look at a lot of beautiful globular peonies flower. So through these three lines, he wants to say that the reader, they should try to change their mood. They should try to convert their mood from sadness to happiness, not by using drugs, not by thinking about committing suicide, rather by focusing on the beautiful objects of nature, such as a morning rose, the rainbow over the sea, or a lot of beautiful peonies flower. Now, what does he says in the next three line? Try to understand. Or if thy mistress some rich anger shows, imprison her soft hand and let her rave, and feed deep, deep upon her peerless eyes. Peerless means beautiful. Mistress here stand for beloved. Now, John Keats says that if your beloved, here beloved doesn't only means the lover's beloved. Here beloved means anybody who is dear to you. He says that if thy mistress some rich anger shows, means he says that if the beloved gets angry with you, and the beloved is angry with you, now what should you do? He says, imprison her soft hand. Imprison here means hold. The lover should hold her soft hand and let her rave. Rave means express her anger. If the beloved gets angry with the lover, so what does the lover do? Or what should the lover do? The lover should only hold her soft hand and let his beloved express her anger. And meanwhile, while his beloved is expressing her anger, so the lover should only look into the deep and beautiful eyes of his beloved. and feed deep, deep upon her peerless eyes. So the lover should not pay attention to what the beloved is saying. No, let her say whatever she wants to say. He should focus only in her beautiful and deep eyes. So this is another second stanza, and through this second stanza, John Keats he advises people now what to do or how can melancholy be avoided by focusing on the good aspects of nature, on the good aspect of life. Now, in the third stanza, which is the last stanza of this poem, in the last stanza, John Keats he advises people that they should not try to avoid melancholy, rather, they should try to adopt melancholy in their life. He says that people should embrace melancholy. Here, melancholy stands for sadness. Melancholy stands for sorrows and suffering. And you all know that sorrows and suffering, they are a part of human life. They can't be avoided. They can't be avoided. They will definitely come again and again in our life. And that's why John Keats says that rather avoiding melancholy, people they should adopt melancholy, they should adopt sadness, they should adopt sorrows and suffering, they should learn to live life with them. And if a person starts or learns how to live life with them, that person leads a better life. Now, what does he says? What does he says? She dwells with beauty, beauty that must die, and joy whose hand is ever at his lips, bidding adieu. Now, in the third stanza, John Keats he personifies beauty. Personifies means John Keats he presents these abstract quality as human beings. She dwells with beauty. Here she stands for melancholy. Dwells means live. According to John Keats, melancholy, sadness, sorrows, and suffering, they live with beauty, beauty that must die. What is the meaning of beauty that must die? Means beauty that is temporary. You know that in this world, beauty is temporary. A person loses beauty with the passage of time. Beauty is temporary, and that's why John Keats says that that melancholy, sadness lives with the beauty. Why? Because a person loses beauty after some time, and then there's a sadness in that person's life. So sadness and beauty, they live together. When a person loses beauty, so sadness enters his or her life. And that's why he says that sadness lives with beauty. It is not separate from beauty. And similarly, he says that sadness, sorrows, and suffering, they also live with joy. Whose hand is ever at his lips bidding adieu? Adieu means bye bye. Do you know what is the foreign practice to say goodbye? Goodbye. In India, we wave our hands to say goodbye. But in foreign countries, how do they wish goodbye or how do they bid goodbye? They bid goodbye by in this way, by just placing their hands on their lips in this way, they bid goodbye. So what is the meaning of this symbol? Means John Keats, he wants to say that even joy is temporary. Joy is not permanent. Joy doesn't stand in a person's life for a long time. So he says that melancholy lives with beauty and joy. Beauty and joy both are temporary. So when a person loses beauty, when a person loses joy, so what comes in his or her life? There's melancholy, there's a sadness. So that's why he says that melancholy and sadness can't be avoided. They can't be escaped. They are inevitable. Melancholy and sadness, it is a part and parcel of our life. What does he says? Aching pleasure nigh. Nigh means near. He personifies pleasure. Turning to poison while the bee mouth sips. Now try to understand. Now he says that melancholy also lives with pleasure, aching pleasure. He says that pleasure is also temporary, and that's why pleasure also doesn't stand for a long time. It comes and gone. Turning to poison, and that's why turning to poison means pleasure also doesn't stand for a long time. Soon it turns into thing of the past. While the bee mouth sips means here there's a picture of the bee just sipping nectar from the flower. So as the bee sips nectar from the flower, similarly, pleasure also doesn't stand permanently in our life. Pleasure also comes for a short time and it goes. Means pleasure is also temporary. So melancholy lives with beauty, with joy, with pleasure. Now the fourth thing he says that melancholy also lives with one more thing, and that is delight. In the very temple of delight. Now, in this line, you can say that delight is presented as a god, that there's a temple of delight. Veiled melancholy has her sovereign shrine. Sovereign shrine means its place, veiled means hidden. John Keats says that there is hidden melancholy with beauty, with joy, with pleasure and delight. Now, in these two lines, delight is presented as a god and the delight has its temple. But John Keats says that in that temple, there's also hidden melancholy. Now, what is the meaning of these two lines? Again, John Keats says that delight is also not permanent, it is also temporary, it comes and goes. And when delight is over, then there is a sadness, then there's a melancholy in our life. So, through these six lines, John Keats, he talks about beauty, joy, pleasure, and delight, and all these, and all these things. He says that these all four things they are temporary, they are not permanent. They come and they pass away, and when they pass away, so there's only one thing in our life, and that is sadness, melancholy. Now he says that what does he says? Though seen of none, कहता in beauty, joy, pleasure, and delight, there is hidden melancholy. But hidden melancholy can be seen by that person. That person. Though seen of none means nobody can see the hidden melancholy, save him. Save means except the person. Only that person can see or can find the hidden melancholy whose strenuous tongue can burst joyous grape against his palate fine. Means, what is the meaning of this one? According to John Keats, only that person can find the hidden melancholy in beauty, joy, pleasure, and delight, who enjoys life, whose strenuous tongue can burst joyous grape. Joyous grape means enjoyment of joy against his palate fine, means a person who fully takes enjoy in his life, knowing very well, knowing very well that joy is not permanent, beauty is not permanent, delight is not permanent, pleasure is not permanent, and sadness and melancholy, it is part and parcel of a person's life. So only that person can see the melancholy who realizes that joy, pleasure, beauty, delight, they are not permanent, they are temporary. And that's why a person tries to enjoy these things to the fullest. Now, in what does he says through the last two lines? His soul shall taste the sadness of her might, means that person will feel the power of the melancholy and be among her cloudy trophies hung. What is the meaning of cloudy trophies hung? Means the victories of melancholy. So he says that only that person will find the hidden melancholy who enjoys the life to the fullest, knowing very well that sorrows and suffering, they are a part of a person's life, and that person will feel the power of melancholy, that the melancholy is inevitable, melancholy is inescapable, nobody can escape from melancholy, and be among her cloudy trophies hung, and that's why that person accepts melancholy, that person accepts the victory of melancholy. कहते हैं ना, be among her cloudy trophies hung means melancholy wins. That person accepts melancholy. That person surrenders to a melancholy. That person accepts that melancholy and sadness, it is part and parcel of one's life. So in this way, John Keats, he gives a wonderful message through this poem that one should not try to run away from melancholy, from sadness, from sorrows and suffering. Rather, they should welcome it. They should accept it. Why? Because sorrows and suffering, sadness, melancholy, it they are a part of one's life, and that's why people, they should not try the methods in order to forget sorrows and suffering. They should not make use of drugs. They should not also think to commit suicide in order to end sorrow, suffering and melancholy, because they can't be ended. They are a part of one's life. So that's a wonderful point, ode on melancholy. So I hope that you will be able to understand this poem, ode on melancholy.